So I'm very proud to introduce myself. So I'm the senior biology faculty of Perfect Academy, and my name is Mrs. Anipon. And today we are going to deal with the morphology of flowering plants. So this morphology of flowering plant is one of the top unit in NEET. So today we are going to discuss what is morphology, what is the definition for morphology, what are the types of morphology. So first, what is morphology? So morphology is the study of external structure of a plant is called morphology. This morphology is further classified into two types, that is vegetative morphology and reproductive morphology. Actually, this morphology is a combination of two Greek words, that is morphos means external and logos means to study. To study the external structure of a plant is called morphology. So in types of morphology, today we are going to deal with vegetative morphology. So what is vegetative morphology? The morphological parts which deals with nutrition is called vegetative morphology. So vegetative morphology, the organs that deals with vegetative morphology is root, stem and leaf. And another reproductive morphology, that is flower. Flower is the only reproductive organ in the plant. So flowers deals with reproductive morphology, and vegetative morphology, root, stem and leaf. So first we are going to see vegetative morphology. In that first we are going to see root. So what is root? Characters of root, types of root. Next, modifications of root. So morphology, once again, morphos plus logos, study of external structure of a plant is called morphology. Types of morphology, vegetative morphology and reproductive morphology. So first, vegetative morphology, we are going to deal with the root, stem and leaf. So first we are going to see what is a root. So this is a root, stem and leaf. These three are concerned with vegetative morphology. So you know that a root is that is a taproot system, and this is a reticulate venation, that is a dipot leaf, and this is a stem. So root, normally we know the function of a root is absorption and fixation, and the leaf photosynthesis, and stem mechanical strength. So these organs deals with the vegetative, that is a nutrition part, so they are called as a vegetative organs of a plant. So first we are going to see root. So vegetative morphology deals with the nutritive growth and functions of a plant, example root, stem and leaf. So reproductive morphology deals with the reproduction of the plant, that is a flower is a very good example for reproductive morphology. So these are different types of flowers. So first, importance of morphology. So why we should study morphology? So first point is, it is used for recognition and identification. That is, without the knowledge of morphology, we can't identify a plant. So this morphology is highly used for recognition and identification, whether the plant is edible or not. So like that we have to recognize. So only for that recognition morphology is used. So next, it is used to gain the information about variation in species. So what are the different types of species? So actually there is a biodiversity, variation in living organisms. So that variation can be studied with the help of morphology. That is, we can gain information about variation in species, in what way the species differ. Next, it is used as an important tool for classification. So these three are importance of the morphology. So now root. So what is the root? So this root is the descending part of the plant. So this root is a descending part of the plant, and you know very well that it is a positively geotropic. That is, they grow towards the soil. So next, what are the characters of root? So the root is colorless. Actually, the plant, in the sense, it is green in color. Stem is green, leaf is green, and a flower is a different color. And what is the color of root? The root is colorless because it possesses a plastid called leucoplast. So this leucoplast is a colorless plastid which is present in the root. So the root are colorless. Sometimes the root looks like a brown in color because it is present inside the soil. It takes the color of the soil. Actually, the root is colorless or white in color due to the presence of leucoplast. So nodes and internodes are absent. In root, nodes and internodes are absent. That is the characteristic features of the root. So here branches are also absent. So now my question is, why the root is colorless? The root is colorless because of the presence of leucoplast. So next, functions of root. Normally the root performs the function of fixation and absorption, which is often described as the primary function. That is, an organ of a plant performs two functions. One is called as a primary function, and the next one is called as a secondary function. So primary function deals with absorption and fixation. So absorption, the root absorb water and minerals from the soil. Fixation, the root supports in fixing in the soil. The root fixes the plant in the soil. So secondary function. So secondary function, it depends. So to perform secondary function, the root gets modified. So only with the modification, it can do the secondary function. So what is the secondary function? Apart from fixation and absorption, the root also perform a special function that is called storage. Not only storage, it also respire. It also photosynthesis. So many secondary functions are there. It depends upon the modification. So this modification of root is called secondary function. So first, the root modify its structure for storage, respiration, mechanical support, and also for photosynthesis. So actually we know very well that root performs a function of fixation and absorption. Apart from that, the root also performs so many different functions which comes under secondary function. So next, types of root. So the roots are classified based on the origin. So depending upon the origin, the roots are classified into taproot, fibrous root or adventitious roots. So first we are going to see what is taproot system. So this is taproot, this is fibrous root, and this is adventitious roots. So please see the picture. So actually this is a taproot. See, this taproot is having main root. Taproot is having main root. The main root gives rise to secondary root. The secondary root gives rise to some tertiary root. So this is a taproot system, and this is fibrous root system. So this fibrous root system, in the sense having cluster of root, is called a fibrous root system. And adventitious root, in the sense it originates other than the radical region. Normally the root comes from the radical region. Whether it is a taproot or fibrous root, it will rise only from the radical region. But this adventitious root arises other than the radical region. So in Tamil, adventitious means idam mari vanda. So actually there are three different types of root: taproot, fibrous root, and adventitious roots. So here cluster of root is present. So here there is no main root, there is a secondary root, only cluster of root is present. Actually the main root is replaced. The main root or primary root is short-lived, whereas here this is called as a primary root or main root. The main root which gives rise to secondary root, the secondary root gives rise to tertiary root. So this is taproot system, and a dicot plant is a characteristic example for taproot. Next, fibrous root, monocot plants. So next we are going to study the internal structure of a root. That is how the root performs the function of fixation and absorption. So actually this is the internal structure of a root. So this both are root. So this root is further classified, that is the internal structure of the root is further classified into some zones. That is root cap region, meristematic region, cortex region, region of elongation. So four important regions are there. The first one is root cap region, second one is meristematic region, third one is region of elongation, and the fourth one is region of maturation. So these are the four important zones in the internal structure of a root. Once again, zone of root cap or region of root cap, zone of meristem, next zone of elongation, and zone of maturation. So these four are the important regions of a internal structure of a root. So we'll see one by one what happens in these regions. So first we are going to see root cap region. So the root cap region. So this is called as a root cap region. See, it is present at the tip and it appears like a cap-like structure, So this is called as a root cap region. So this cap region is present at the tip of the, actually this is the tip of the root. Below this, cap-like texture is present. So this is called a root cap region. So this root cap region covers the tip of the root. So the major function is protection, because the tip region is very sensitive. It is a too young, so it is very sensitive. So this root cap region is protected by, root tip region is protected by root cap. The major function of the root cap is to give protection. So next comes the meristematic regions. So meristem, in the sense, meristems are very young cells. They are always in the state of division. So this meristematic region produce meristem, zone of meristem or region of meristem produce meristem cells. So this zone is most important because they produce young cells. So next comes the region of elongation. So this region is most important because the cell elongation takes place with the help of a phytohormone called cytokinin. The cell elongates. Why the cell elongates? Because to store water, to absorb water. So next comes zone of maturation. So zone of maturation is most important because storage and conduction, majority of the secondary functions are done only in the region of maturation zone. So this maturation zone, in the sense they are having dead cells, it is made up of dead cells. This zone of maturation possess so many thread-like texture called root hair. So that area is also called as a root hair zone. So these root hairs are present only at the zone of maturation or region of maturation. Next. So root cap region, protective in function, zone of meristem. This region undergoes repeated division in order to form new cells, and zone of elongation. So the cells formed during meristem cells undergoes the elongation. Next comes zone of maturation. It undergoes various functions like storage, conduction and protection. So next. So now we are going to enter into the secondary functions of root. So we already studied the different types of root based on the origin, that is a taproot, fibrous root and adventitious root. So this is a modification of a taproot. So taproot is further modified into three types. The first one is conical, napiform and fusiform. Conical, napiform and fusiform. This is an example for conical root. This is a modification of taproot, and this is an example for conical root. Example is carrot, and the binomial is Ducus carota. So this is a Ducus carota, that is carrot. See the shape. Actually, the upper region, it appears to be a cone-like texture. So it is called as a conical root. The root performs a function of storage. That is, a taproot here performs a function of storage. So it is called as a conical root. So this carrot, this is called as a carrot, conical in shape. It is a modification of taproot. So next. So this is napiform. So napiform example is radish, the binomial is Raphanus sativus. So here the middle region is somewhat broad, upper and lower region is somewhat narrow. So this is called as napiform. This is called as fusiform. So example for this is Raphanus sativus. So next to come napiforms, that is top shape. Example is beetroot, Beta vulgaris. So next come photosynthetic root. So as I told you already, the root also performs the function of photosynthesis. Actually this is a photosynthetic root. So these photosynthetic roots are abundantly found in mangrove forest. Example for this is Rhizophora and Avicennia. So these plants are abundantly seen in the mangrove forest. Actually the root, in order to respire, because that area is very marshy, the root can't respire. So the root, some of the roots are produced outside the soil, that is aerial roots are produced. So these aerial roots produce some minute opening which is called as a nematothodes. So through this nematothodes the root respire. The root which possess nematothodes are called nematophores. So this is called nematothodes, and this nematothodes roots are abundantly found in mangrove forest, and the function is respiration. Next. So this is modification of adventitious root, that is prop root. Prop in the sense a pillar like. Actually the main root is fibrous root system. The fibrous root system is not that much strong. So the branches produce some aerial roots. That is, the branches produce some roots. These roots grows towards the soil and it appears to be a pillar. So it is called as a prop root. Example is banyan tree. So this prop root is a modification of adventitious root. So this is stilt root. This is also an example for adventitious root, sugar cane. Actually stilt root in the sense the root that appears from the nodal region. Actually this is sugar cane. So this part is called nodal region. So the root that appears from the nodal region is called the root that appears other than radical is called adventitious root. So here the root rises from the nodal region, that is stilt root. This root gave mechanical strength. Next. So nodulated root. So nodulated root in the sense the root possesses some nodule-like texture, some knob-like texture. So inside this knob, some soil-living bacteria are present. So these bacteria supports the plant in fixing nitrogen. So this is called a nodulated root. Example for this is Fabaceae family. And this is a fasciculated root, that is cluster of root. The root at the tip swells and form a cluster of root, that is called a fasciculated root. So example for this is asparagus. In Tamil it is called as Tannir Vittan Kizhagu. So far we have seen what is root, what is a modification of root, and examples of some of the roots we have discussed in detail. So in the next slide we will discuss another vegetative organ, that is stem. Thank you.